Welcome to Black Artist Lit. I'm your host, Nikara Cheney, and this week on Black Artist Lit, we are reading Straight No Chaser by Jill Nelson. Now, this is important just to give a little bit of context. Straight No Chaser was originally published January 1st, 1997. Before Jill published this book, she wrote Volunteer Slavery. And in Volunteer Slavery, it was really about examining her experience working with some of those major news institutions and a lot of the unspoken expectations that they placed on Black journalists, especially Black women journalists. Now, not a lot has changed, surprisingly, but Volunteer Slavery was the first book that she did. So then she followed that book, which we were talking about, institutions and Black women and Black journalists, to here with Straight Chaser. And when she came out with this one, she said, hey, we are getting straight to the punch. And then one other thing to know is now Straight No Chaser comes out of that same world, but this perspective is just a little bit different because it makes you focus. Here's where we start to get a little bit more individual. It's written at a time where Black women were increasingly visible. We were visible in public culture, but the ways we were visible in the culture was definitely shifting, and we definitely did not control a lot of the narrative with that. So with this book, when it came out, a lot of the Black women of our culture, they greatly identified with it. A lot of times she talked about the how subtle damaging messaging can be, and what comes of that. So this book is definitely going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what your thoughts are. Without further ado, let's get into Straight No Chaser by Jill Nelson. Black girls and women in America have too long been sent the message that they are flawed, that they have the wrong hair, body, and color. African American women have seldom been in control of defining who they are. From the invisibility of the 50s and flirting with Black nationalist politics in the 70s, to waking up as Reagan's evil welfare queen in the 80s and erasure and misrepresentation in the 90s. Straight No Chaser is a lively account of Black women's struggle to form a positive identity in a hostile culture. Jill Nelson explores the attitudes, events, and icons, from Barbie to Black nationalism to the Million Man March, through the eyes of a politically aware Black woman. In writing about her own experience, growing up in the house of her father, being assaulted by a lover, or struggling to control her rage, she draws a vivid picture of not only the obstacles Black women face in their lives, but the possibility of transformation. Nelson urges Black women to recognize that they are not victims but a powerful community, and to raise their collective voices. Scathing, funny, and always honest, Straight No Chaser will challenge men and women of all races to reconsider their views of Black women. Chapter 1. Who's the fairest of them all? You want to do what? My mother turns from the kitchen table where she is sitting snapping string peas. It is the spring of 1959. I am 7. Work for Betty Crocker, I say. From outside, just below where we live on Riverside Drive in Harlem, the horn of a tugboat pulling a barge up the Hudson River punctuates my sentence, puncturing my confidence. Betty Crocker? My mother says the name as though she's never heard it before. The syllables roll off her tongue like words of a foreign language she's never spoken. It makes no sense to her. The cake lady, I prop. I know my mother knows who I'm talking about. She buys cake mixes from them sometimes as a quick treat for the 4 of us. Otherwise, my mother is truly the scratch cake queen. The queen gives the royal nod, gazes out the window at the river passing by. Those are some bad cakes, she says finally, shaking her head and turning back to her beans. Easy, but they have a bitter aftertaste. I can't quite figure out what it is. Her voice and mine float away like the river in search of that damn aftertaste. I want to stomp my foot, bang on the table, make those South Carolina string beans become Mexican jumping beans and dance in the colander. Get my mother's attention from that aftertaste, those beans, onto me. I don't want to eat them. I want to bake them for television. I say the last word slowly, with emphasis on each syllable, as if the fact that I'll be doing it on television makes my first career aspiration at least understandable, if not noble. In 1959, television is still relatively new, still fascinating. I think there is something adventurous about being on television, kind of like going into outer space. It will be quite a few years before it is public knowledge that the sole purpose of television is to sell things. Maybe that puts me in the vanguard. My mother snaps a few more beans, lights a Viceroy cigarette. Why? She looks me full in the face, her expression incredulous. Why would you want to do that? She says this as if I've said I wanted to work in a morgue. Not that there's anything wrong with working in a morgue. Someone has to do it. It's honorable work, just not suitable for her youngest daughter. Our oldest daughter, middle son, baby boy. They're perfect, I say. I know I could do it. My mother looks at me, the smile in her eyes traveling toward her mouth. Maybe she sees I'm serious because the smile doesn't reach her lips. All right, if you say so, she says vaguely. I hug her neck. Inhale her bittersweet odor of cigarette smoke and perfume. Did you finish your homework? All but the arithmetic. Go on and finish before dinner. My mother, back to decapitating beans, stares at the river passing by. Who needs math to bake cakes? Vision of myself handing perfectly iced layers to Betty moments before she goes into the little television box. The chocolate frosting thick with swirls, peaks, many hills, and hardly any valleys dance in my head. When the commercial's over, I wonder, do I get to eat my work? Who knows? It might come in handy. My mother shrugs. Maybe you'll change your mind and decide to be a mathematician. This is the earliest career aspiration I can recall. I did not want to be Betty Crocker herself, but Betty's baker. I wish my choice was motivated solely by my love of food or baking or helping others, but this would only be partially true. I think that even coming from a middle-class family of affirming, ambitious, successful people, it had already been communicated to me through the culture around me that as a Black female, I was essentially invisible. Subconsciously, I chose a profession that confirmed my unseen place in society. But I did not understand this then. In the beginning, in the house of my mother and father, I saw myself everywhere. In my sisters and two brothers, in the care and attention of my mother and the expectations of my father, in the experiences and privileges they struggled to provide us. I did not suspect that as I grew older, left their protection, I would have to fight to remain visible and be seen as I saw myself. Although now when I think about it, there were many signs that this was the case, that attempts at erasure were what awaited me. I just did not know how to read them. 2, my parents, being good, loving, hopeful, and successful, told the 4 of us that we were visible, important, that life would be different and wonderful for us. They did not lie completely. We sometimes are, and it sometimes is. But what my father could not, and I surmise my mother would not tell my sister and me, is that as we grew older, ventured out into the world, left home and into the world of white people and the world of men, as Black women, our entitlement to visibility would come under direct assault. I believe that my mother knew these things. The challenge was how to tell her daughters about the barriers that awaited us without making us feel hopeless and inferior. My father could not tell us about the limitations of gender because he did not know them, and there was no need for him to tell my sister Lynn and me much. We were his daughters. I was his baby girl, and it was enough that we were pretty and smart and well behaved, that we represented him well. My older and younger brothers were truly important to him. It was to them, Stanley and Ralph, he told things because they were like him, male. My mother, an educated, funny, vibrant woman, stifled her own career as a businesswoman and subsequently a librarian for love of my father, and at his behest, functioned instead as his wife, mother of his children, and keeper of his house. My mother did not complain as she appeared to be at peace with her choices. Realized now that the signs of her discontent was present in her aloofness, her tense cigarette smoking, her joy when she packed her bags to travel alone to Indiana for a meeting of the hair care business of which she was president, a position that came to her because her father was the company attorney. In the loving, casual parenting that she showed toward the 4 of us when my father was not home. Indirectly, she told me and my sister about the possibility of erasure in her high academic expectations, enforcing us to read all the time, and talking to us about what we wanted to be when we grew up, and never mentioning getting married or having children, and always pushing us not to necessarily do the girl thing. If, immersed in reading the series of Cherry Amos books, we said we wanted to be a nurse, my mother asked, why not a doctor? If the preferred profession of the moment was the glamorized 1950s vision of being an airline stewardess, complete with chic uniform and jaunty cap, My mother responded, "That's nothing but a flying maid. Wouldn't you rather be the pilot?" When I went through a phase of wanting to be an actress, my mother suggested I be a writer. In her quiet way, she pushed her two girls toward work that would afford us independence and visibility, knowing that she had conceded much of hers. Although they talked to us about racism often, my parents sheltered the four of us from the personal experience of it, and they were able for many years in the protected and world that they had created define being Black solely as a positive experience. No one ever addressed me by a racial epithet. It wasn't until after desegregation of public facilities that I learned that the reason we didn't stop at gas stations on overnight drives, my father instead pulling to the side of the road, my mother opening both front and back doors to form a makeshift toilet stall, walking us in the back seat in our thin summer pajamas and pushing us outside to squat and pee before we drove on, was because there was no restrooms available to Black Americans. If I was troubled as a child, it was about how to be female, a girl, and a woman. I sensed in my mother's acquisition to my father the perception that there were feelings, ideas, and words kept neatly checked just beneath her surface, coupled with the lack of images of Black women in popular culture, conspired to confuse me. When I am young, many of the girls in my class want to be ballerinas, but I don't enjoy ballet class. Already I can see that I will never look fabulous in pink tights and a tutu. Never have that frail, long-necked, I can see blue veins under the skin look dancers have. It will be several years before the Alvin, Ellie, and Arthur Mitchell dance companies burst upon the scene and into the consciousness of little Black girls with troops filled with big thighs, high-ass brown women who fly through the air with greatness of ease. Some of my girlfriends want to be brides when they grow up, but it is clear that my parents have greater expectations than simply marriage. I cannot figure out what brides actually do after their wedding day. No one ever says, which leads me to suspect they don't do anything for a while and then become mothers. In third grade, when we study Indians, I decide I love to be a native woman of the plains with an understanding of the land, a papoose and a tipi. But when we get to the part about the blankets infected with smallpox virus and wounded knee, broken treaties, free alcohol, and reservations, I don't want to be a Native American anymore unless I can go back and change the past. As for the pioneer women, it seems to me that they do all the dull routine work that keeps everyone alive and safe, but never have any fun. The pioneer women live in cramped, cold, smoky log cabins and spend a lot of their time being scared of either the Indians or drunken, sex-starved male pioneers. The room I share with my sisters is filled with dolls. Dolls from around the world. Rag dolls, Japanese dolls in kimonos, Native American dolls in beads and buckskin, Dutch dolls wearing tiny painted wooden shoes. The truth is that I never liked dolls. Instead found them frightening and sinister. Plastic bodies little girls were told to mother and pretend we loved. Dolls did not reflect me, either what I looked like or who I wanted to become. Still, I coveted them because everyone else did, and I thought I was supposed to. My loathing manifested in the way in which I played with them, especially the pink rubber baby dolls. After school, my friends and I twist off arms and legs, cut open chest cavities in search of the voice box, stick pins in the behind of a peeing doll to see if we could make its bowels move. We draw on their faces, hacked off their hair, applied finger and toenail polish, stuck arms into leg holes, created custom-made doll monsters. I absorbed suggestions from television, books, and the culture around me about who I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be like. Each month when my mother's subscription to McCall's magazine arrives, I beg her for the page with the cutout Betsy McCall doll in doll clothes. Betsy is, of course, white, but then so were all the women in the pages of McCall's Ladies' Home Journal Red Book, and the other general interest magazines my mother read. Housewives posed in neatly pressed shirt-waist dresses with slender belts, caught in the act of vacuuming with the Electrolux, loading laundry into a Maytag washing machine, whipping up a Betty Crocker cake, mixing their conquering husband a drink of Johnny Walker Red. They were all white, and so were their daughters. The flesh-colored crayon in the giant box of Crayola crayons is certainly not the color of my flesh, nor are the flesh-colored Band-Aids manufactured by Johnson & Johnson. Even the peaches and cream complexion promised in the sales pitch for Ivory soap, 99% pure, is not for me. The children in highlights magazines were always white, as were the human superheroes in the comic books. I think the major reason me, my brothers, and most of the black kids we knew were into Green Lantern or Spider-Man, as opposed to Superman or Supergirl, was because we could more closely identify with and aspire to become them than their white counterparts. In Westerns, I was always the Indian, never the cowboy. In Tarzan movies, I identified with the Africans or the apes, not Tarzan. I wanted to be Sheena, queen of the jungle, not because she was white, because she was female and pretty, one of the only women on television who existed independently of men. I used to watch Father Knows Best and Leave It to Beaver, and the Donna Reed Show, and Ozzie and Harriet, and the Patty Duke Show, but never thought of them as real, or role models, or people to emulate. I couldn't figure out how television mothers always looked perfect and never yelled, or how it was television daddies never seemed to work but their families were able to still live well. My harried mother yelled at us regularly, and my father was always busy working and hardly ever home. Most of the women on television were uninteresting, whether the wife, mother types on the family situation comedies, or low-level career girls like Marlo Thomas as that girl, or Mary Tyler Moore as an overexploited associate producer. The women I was drawn to were the ones who, if they did exist in the real world, were few and far between, or were total fantasy women. Emma Peel from The Avengers, the private detective, Honey West, Jenny, who popped out of a bottle to conjure and control on I Dream of Jenny, or Samantha on Bewitched, who could do magic with a twitch of her nose. Actually, was most enamored of Endora, Samantha's bitchy, superpowered mother who was opinionated, obstinate, and imposed her will as she saw fit. But these women were not real. By 1968, when Diane Carroll became the first black woman to star in her own situation comedy, Julia, playing a nurse and single mother widowed by her husband's patriotic service in Vietnam, I no longer looked to television for reflection and inspiration. At 16, it was becoming clear to me that in a country that sponsored the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., the escalation of the war in Vietnam, the election of Richard M. Nixon, and the murder in Chicago of Black Panther Fred Hampton, value to my life of seeing a pretty black woman on television was negligible. The one area where black women existed in significant numbers was as entertainers. But even as a girl, I knew these women were, because of their talent, exceptions. They did not serve as reflections or role models. Living in my parents' house, I learned early from the sadness in their beautiful music or the overheard conversations of adults that the lives of musicians, particularly women, were harsh. Heard the stories of Bessie Smith, Billie Holiday, and Dinah Washington. Even here, black women were most often disembodied voices cracking out of the record player or radio without visual representation. Whatever glimpse I got of these women, as usual, limited to headshot or on a cover of my parents' albums, my introduction to Gloria Lynn, Sarah Vaughan, Dinah, and Billie was as voices, faces, and feelings, not complete women. For many years, I lived what I realize now was a sheltered and charmed life as the daughter of the black middle class. I knew I liked and did not fear white people. There was no point. I went to private schools where my classmates were the children of liberal and sometimes left Jews, people who, like my parents, consciously chose to educate their children in a progressive, multiracial environment. They lived in a parallel universe of their own, separate, and if not exactly equal, certainly no better. I did not question my absence from their world any more than I longed for their presence in mine. It was a comfortable separation, at least until I entered young womanhood and realized that the black world could not employ, feed, or sustain me, before I knew what being black, female, and in the minority meant in America. It was not until I was 12 or 13, moving into young womanhood, with a desire for sexual and physical identity and value, that I was forced to face up to my own invisibility as a black girl. I began to realize that more often than not, my physical being, brown body, heavy thighs, uncontrollable hair, wasn't seen. As a child, I read Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Rapunzel, in which the heroines were almost always white, almost always get the prince, live happily ever after, and always have long hair. In fact, if Rapunzel hadn't had that long straight hair to let down, The prince wouldn't have had anything to climb up to her tower on, would never have gotten to her. If I thought as a child these were just fairy tales and not reflections of reality. When I read The Gift of the Magi in junior high school English, where the man sells his prized watch to buy a comb for his wife's long, glorious hair, and she simultaneously cuts off her hair, the ultimate sacrifice for her love, and sells it to buy him a watch chain, I learned that the importance of long, straight hair is not limited to stories. By adolescence, I know the importance of hair, that it is a point of entry, an attribute that women need to be considered attractive in this culture. As a Black girl, I learned early on that thick, kinky hair is without value, since rarely are even white women the embodiment of beauty in a racist culture, with short hair presented as desirable. Hair, and lots of it, is required both for beauty and visibility. It is the beginning of what, for most women, is a lifelong obsession. My brother Stanley and I sit on the stoop of the building we live in on 148th Street. Before my father's financial success enables us to move downtown to a better neighborhood, away from the Black people, which in American culture is up in status. We are hunched over, tightening our roller skates with one of those fat silver skate keys we used back in the days before rollerblades. I am 9, my brother is 10. He is chocolate covered, round face with thick kinky hair cut close to the scalp in the style of the day for little Black boys, teasingly called a baldy bean. I am caramel colored. Except for the difference in our complexions and the texture of our hair, we could pass for twins. My hair is parted into center and hangs in 2 braids in the middle of my back. Its texture, closer to the straightness of white people's hair than to the tightly curled hair of Black folks, is what Black people too often call good or pretty hair. I learned this from adults, friends of my parents who come to visit and meeting me stroke my hair, an accident of birth or consequence of plantation rape that sets me apart from my sister and 2 brothers. Even as I enjoy being fawned over, I am made uncomfortable. 2 women walk past, glance our way. They are probably in their early 20s. "Oh, look at those long braids," one of the women says. "Yeah, that girl got a head of hair." "She got that pretty hair too," the woman says. She stops and stands looking down at my brother and me. "Can I touch it?" I look up at her and for a moment do not know what to say. I want to ask why and then refuse, but I'm afraid to. Not only because I have been taught to respect adults. I'm afraid that to deny this woman's small request will set me apart, make her angry, make her think that I am high sedity, fancy myself better than she. "Can I touch it, baby?" Her voice is friendly, pleading, demanding. All at once, I nod. She places both hands on my hairline, her fingertips in the part. She slowly runs her hands down the crown, down to where the braids begin. Her fingers wrap my braids within tight fists and continue past the rubber bands, an inch further to the ends. Her fists hold only air. As long as I live, I will never forget the sensations evoked as this grown-up stranger caressed my hair. I feel simultaneously flattered and embarrassed, complimented and angry, all powerful and profoundly powerless. "Thank you, baby," she says and continues up the hill. Unsure what she is thanking me for, I am unable to say you're welcome. I don't say anything. Instead, I bend my head down to the task at hand, furiously twist my skate key. One of my braids fall over my shoulder, swings in front of me. Angrily, I flip it aside. Already finished, Stanley stands up, skates off, disappears around the corner. I hurry to catch up with him. By the time I am 15 in 1967, we no longer live in Harlem. Nor do I wear 2 braids. 4 years earlier, when I was 11, my father's successful dental practice allows him to move us from Harlem to Upper West Side, to a building in which we are the only Black family. My hair is shoulder length now, and I try to wear it in a flip, straight to the collarbone, and then ends curled up, kind of like the rich and beautiful Veronica Lodge in the Archie comics, although this is not easy. I want to be the Brett girl from the television and magazine ads. Every strand of shiny hair always in place. It doesn't work. My hair inevitably balloons. It is a sunny afternoon in 1967. I'm walking across 125th Street towards Broadway and a bus downtown when a voice calls, "Hey, you, with the big legs." I look around but can't tell where the voice is coming from, who it belongs to, or who it's talking to. The street is crowded with all sizes of women's legs in motion. "Hey, schoolgirl, I'm talking to you," the voice yelled. That narrows it down. There are only a few girls carrying books, shouldering book bags, or wearing those telltale plaid school uniforms, which, even with the skirt hiked up and lipstick smeared on, still scream Catholic schoolgirl. I try to look around serendipitously for the voice, find that it emanates from a black construction worker lolling around a building site. One of the men catches my eye and grins. "Yeah, you girl. Where'd you get those big legs?" he says, his voice an impossible combination of a drawl and yell. I'm embarrassed and flattered, feel violated, vulnerable, and seduced. A combination of emotions I will experience often and become familiar with over a lifetime interacting with men. I speed up my pace. Just past, I hear him call, "Hey, you, fine thing in a red dress." I look down just to double check, but I'm not wearing a red dress. Now that I'm out of his line of vision, he is no longer talking to me, has moved on to the next female. I am both disappointed and relieved. 15 years old, I am obsessed with the cosmic questions of young womanhood. Who am I? How do I look? Is my hair okay? Will anyone ever love me? Am I pretty? Even though I have not started dating, have barely been past second base, have no real understanding what sexuality is, I can feel its presence. Know that it is crucially important to me and to others. Internally, it appears suddenly in spurts then vanishes. I'm at moments physically hypersensitive, aware each time thigh brushes thigh, a swinging arm touches the side of a breast, of the weight between my legs that throbs and subsides. The eyes of men passing carelessly over me leave hot trails on my skin. They confirm the external world's awareness of my sex. Feeling them, my body shifts, squirms, realigns itself, simultaneously preens and contracts. I hurry home. Big legs, big legs, big legs resounding in my ears. When I am a teenager and blossoming into a full-breasted, big-legged, round-hipped young black woman, the prevalent symbols of youthful beauty were models. First among them was a skinny-legged, flat-chested, knock-kneed blonde model from England named Twiggy. Twiggy was to me and my friends, black and white, what Kate Moss is to many teenagers in the 1990s, the dominant image of feminine beauty. It does not occur to me at the time that there is anything at all wrong with Twiggy. All inadequacies are mine. She is not too thin, I am too fat. She does not look too awkward, I am the one who is clumsy and out of place. Her breasts are not too small, mine are too big. Even though neither I or any of my friends even faintly resemble Twiggy, we see her image over and over in 17 and other magazines, and with repetition, she becomes our ideal. We dye it. Draw pale half-moons under our eyes with wrinkle-erasing sticks in search of her startled deer caught in the headlights. Look, mimic her style of dress. Call one another love. But the power Twiggy possesses derives not simply from her being the current embodiment of beauty. She is also a female cultural icon. Arriving at the height of Americans' fascination with all things British, she is a total package. We want to not only look like Twiggy, but to be her. We want her life, along with the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and Carnaby Street. Twiggy is the latest fab import from England, the ultimate source of mid-1960s white pop culture, the feminine representation of the British invasion. The notion that all you have to do to be famous, rich, and beloved is to be a Twiggy clone does not seem either unreasonable or unreal when I am 15. When I entered the house that day from 125th Street, my mother says, "Is everything all right, Jill?" I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'll never be skinny, I wail. Skinny? Why would you want to be skinny? My mother, 5'3" and 116 pounds, hands me a tissue, exhales smoke. I sob harder. How can I expect my mother to understand? I don't want to be big this, big that. I want to be skinny, beautiful, famous, have everyone love me. My mother gives me one of those patient here we go sighs. What brought all of this on, she asks. I tell her about my walk. How nice it was until the man called out to big legs, and I realized he was making fun of me. I'm fat, I'm ugly, my legs are too big. A fresh cascade of tears runs down my cheek. What does mommy do? Does she gather me in her arms, soothe me, assure me that I am perfect just the way I am? But no, instead she laughs. I sob louder. It's a compliment, she says through laughter. Big legs, that's a big compliment. Men like those big pretty legs like you and your Aunt Florence have. My father's sister, Aunt Florence, unlike most of those, listens more than she talks. She is not petite and slim like my sister and mother. but tall and healthy like me. In 1994, my Aunt Florence gets very sick and has both legs amputated above the knee. She tells me that I now have the pretty legs for both of us and not to waste them. When I go to visit, I wear a dress or skirt, sit with our legs crossed. Recently, her voice filled with wonder, she tells me of waking up mornings with her legs aching after dreaming of dancing all night. Her feet hurt too, taking Tylenol and waiting for it to work its magic on those big, pretty legs. What about you? Your legs, I ask. My mother shifts her weight, extends one of her legs. The muscle in the back of her calf bulges. My mother has always worn high heels on her tiny feet. I've got good legs, but I always wish they were bigger, she says thoughtfully. Really? It was the first time it has occurred to me that, except for breasts, anything on a woman's body should be bigger. Sad to say, this is a revolutionary thought. Really? You got big, pretty legs. You should know that. Forget those white girls with those skinny giraffe legs. Next time you see your Aunt Florence, look at her legs. Yours are just like them. You should be proud of them. That man was just paying you a compliment. I wrap my mind around this statement and am soothed until my mother adds, but it's low life for men to yell, even compliments at you on the street. Whatever you do, never respond. At 15, hurling toward womanhood, in the end, I am left more confused than before, unsettled by the sense of ugliness, violation, and thrill that the man's attention and compliment, once explained by my mother, made me feel. Made uncertain by the knowledge of both my physical vulnerability and my need for bodily affirmation. I am embarrassed and frightened that in a world of little confirmation and much negation, a few shouted words from a man, low life or otherwise, could make me in such a short space of time feel both ugly and beautiful, visible and invisible, frightened and seduced. My mother is light brown, my father very dark. I do not think much about this when I am young, except when they remind the four of us kids that to intelligent, good people, skin color is an inappropriate basis on which to judge others. What was important was who you were, what you thought, the deeds you did. Beauty is as beauty does was an oft-repeated adage in our household. Words I grew to accept as true. Still, outside the universe my parents created, I could not help but notice that most of the beautiful women were white. And the few black women white people gave their props and admitted were gorgeous were usually very light-skinned, like Lena Horne. Even in the black community, 99 times out of 100, if a black woman was described as beautiful, you could bet your bottom dollar that she was light-skinned. Attractiveness seemed to increase as levels of melanin decrease. There's an old rhyme that goes, if you're light, you're all right. If you're black, get back. If you're yellow, you're mellow. I don't recall when I first heard it, but I was very young. I knew, according to the laws of my family, it was wrong to judge others by or to trade upon one's own skin color, but it was also clear to me that doing so had currency in both black and white communities. Back in 1963, at age 11, I called my dark-skinned best friend Lynn black. It was not a compliment. In the early 1960s, black had about the same negative connotations as nigger. I said it in the midst of an argument between a group of girls over who was most beautiful. Whoever was would have the starring role in the game we were about to play. It was summer, and we were standing on Pennacock Street on Martha's Vineyard, a block from the beach. Lynn, copying a plea for herself as vocally as the rest of us, said, "I'm prettiest." And I looked her dead in the eye and said, "You're black." I spoke these words with arrogance and cruelty. The tone of my voice, as much as my words, communicated the cultural conditioning that 11 years of parental lectures had been unable to erase. That to be both prettiest and black was impossible. And I cannot remember what Lynn said, if anything. I do remember the stricken look in her eyes. I knew at that moment I had said something terrible, stepped over an important line, one that I did not know until that moment was there. I do remember that when we went home that evening, neither of us felt the prettiest. As a girl and young woman, hair, body, and color were society's trinity in determining feminine beauty and identity. The cultural and value-laden gang of three that formed the boundaries and determined the extent of women's visibility, influence, and importance. For the most part, they still are. We learn as girls that in ways both subtle and obvious, personal and political, our value as females is largely determined by how we look. As we enter womanhood, the pervasive power of this trinity is demonstrated again and again in how we are treated by the men we meet, the men we work for, the men who wield power, how we treat each other, and most of all, ourselves. For Black women, the domination of physical aspects of beauty in women's definition and value render us invisible, partially erased or obsessed, sometimes for a lifetime, since most of us lack the major talismans of Western beauty. Black women find themselves involved in a lifelong effort to self-define in a culture that provides them no positive reflection. By the time I turned 18 and graduated from high school in 1970, I was obsessed with trying to figure out exactly what it meant to be a young person, a woman, a Black person, and particularly a Black woman. In a time of tremendous political, cultural, and social turmoil, much of which co-signed women to the traditional role of unseen helpmate, bodies at the rally or sexual vessel, or excluded us altogether. I knew that the few roles a culture offered to women, wife, mother, secretary, sex object, were unacceptable. But what were the alternatives? Then along came Angela Yvonne Davis. Angela Davis was the first Black woman who was alive, only a few years older than me, who seemed to embody many of the elements of who I wanted to be in one body. She was smart, beautiful, political, outspoken, talented, self-defined, single, and famous. She burst into the public consciousness after being accused of supplying the guns used in the courtroom shootout by the members of the Black Panther Party in San Rafael, California, in which 4 people were killed. This alleged act put her on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. She was tried and eventually acquitted of all charges. 30 years later, ignoring her subsequent work as a writer and teacher, the culture has attempted to reduce Davis's importance to the sum of her enormous afro. But as an 18-year-old Black woman, Davis meant far more to me and my peers. That she may have well been the most perfect, bushy, symmetrical, natural I've ever seen was affirming, but incidental. Style may have reflected substance, it did not determine it. It may have been Davis's hair that first caught my eye, but it was her courage, intellect, and commitment to what she believed in that touched not only my spirit, but the spirits of many people, particularly young Black women. Here was a Black woman who was not only looked different, but behaved differently. A sister who was visible and vocal, whose beliefs and actions profoundly irked and challenged the status quo. For many Black women who came of age in the 1950s and 60s feeling unattractive and inadequate, knowing that even if we wanted to, we could never be Barbie, Davis represented the possibility of a more realistic and compelling identity. A child of Birmingham's Black middle class, a member of the Communist Party fired from UCLA for her party membership. A woman who had known the 4 Sunday school girls blown up by segregationists in the basement of Birmingham's 16th Street Baptist Church in 1963. Davis touched me deeply. An uncomfortable, rebellious, and political child of the Black middle class, I immediately connected with Davis and in her saw some reflection of who I was and would like to be. She suggested who I might become, a visible, outspoken political woman. In the eyes of many Americans, the privileged good girl in blackface gone bad. In Angela Davis, the biographies I read as girls, tales of Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Phyllis Wheatley, Ida B. Wells, ordinary Black women whom circumstances made extraordinary, came to life. I wore a Free Angela button, handed out leaflets, attended rallies of support. I devoured everything I could find written by or about her, wanted to know what a communist really was, how revolution worked. I went and bought Karl Marx, Das Kapital, and Franz Fanon's The Wretched of the Earth. Angela Davis was the first living Black woman who suggested to me that the struggle for a broader definition of what it could mean to be a woman in America, for self-definition, was not merely a physical, but a political struggle, and that it would be ongoing. Nearly 3 decades after I turned 18 in 1970, the issues that I struggled with as a girl and young woman coming of age still dominate. The trinity of hair, body, and complexion prevail. It is only their manifestations that have changed. In a wonderful collection of essays called Home, published in 1966, Leroy Jones, now Amari Baraka, commented about television that the best thing about it was that Black people weren't on it. Nowadays, our faces are all over television. Most of the time, we're being arrested, robbing, shooting, posturing on talk shows, writhing in music videos. Black women are most often seen in music videos gyrating in sexually explicit pantomime, the close-up more often than not on our jiggling butts, breasts, or open thighs, although you may see a yard or two of synthetic hair fly by now and then. I may have known the women on my parents' album covers only as singing heads without bodies, but at least I knew they had heads. What I know after an afternoon watching music videos is that black women's bodies can now be used to sell things too. What's in their heads is irrelevant. Sometimes I think that overall, invisibility might have been better. Aside from a brief period in the late 1950s and 60s when the afro was in style, the natural texture of most black women's hair remains, as it has historically been, unacceptable. The apparently never-ending popularity of a variety of straightening devices, from the hot comb to chemical straighteners, now euphemistically called relaxers, as if the problem is that sister's hair is uptight and all we need to do to get it to cool out attests to this. The proliferation in the last decade of hair weaves and braided extensions is a manifestation of black women's desire for hair that is not only straight but long, the better to toss. To black women, the message sent by the culture of beauty remains the same. An example, that we genetically lack a fundamental element of desirability. The difference is that now we have thousands of products marketed specifically to us, the vast majority of them produced by white companies. This has nothing to do with inclusion and everything to do with cash. Just as when I was growing up, we all knew the answer to the refrain of the Clairol ads. Is it true blondes have more fun? Today, when the actress Sybil Shepherd, blonde, straight hair, and hawking L'Oreal hair products, declares she uses them because I'm worth it, we all know the flip side is that those of us who don't are worth less. Not much has changed. The infrequent times when black women are portrayed as objects of desire in popular culture, their hair is invariably long. Their features usually more Caucasian than Negroid. Their bodies, since most often they are models, skinny. Happy as I was to see the images of black models, Naomi Sims, Pat Cleveland, Alba Chin, Iman, and Pat Johnson break onto the scene when I was a young woman, it was clear most black women did not and could not look like them with their narrow noses, high cheekbones, and long silky manes. 30 years later, that same can be said of Veronica Webb and Tyra Banks. Even the popularity of the dark-skinned British-born Naomi Campbell, whose natural hair is often shrouded in wigs, represents merely an updated version of white beauty in blackface, but this time with a twist. The black woman as exotic, animalistic, sexualized dominatrix. Still, note Campbell's long hair and colored contact lenses, making it clear that she is not the loathed and dreaded authentic black woman. Stephanie Berry is a brown-skinned woman in her early 40s who has been acting for 13 years and has recently begun getting television roles. Berry looks more like every sister than a model. I have never been the love interest, she says. I am always a single mother. I am always the parent of a male black child, and he is always a victim or perpetrator of violence. I usually don't have a husband, and if I do, he dies too. I am always grieving. Berry tells the story of a recent audition. I knew I was a grieving mother. I walked in and said, okay, what happened to my baby this time? What did my boy do? I was trying to make light. They didn't find it funny. I did not get the part. In the last 30 years, has been little real alteration of the beauty industry's marketing of whiteness as the norm, the standard to which all the rest of us should aspire. For black girls and women, this journey is as physically devastating as it is omnipresent. Even if we manage to get rid of our hips, breasts, waistlines, grow our hair, get a weave or extensions, even if we go blind, we will never possess the fundamental ingredient for female beauty in America, and that is whiteness. In this climate, we conveniently forget that for most black Americans, light skin is the result of rape and sexual exploitation during slavery. We are only interested in the rewards or favor we believe come with lighter skin color. It is a psychological given that all people feel most immediately comfortable with those who look like them. It is not coincidence that the primary image of African American women we see in popular culture, particularly television and print advertisements, are light-skinned. It's gotten to the point that I often have to see a commercial 2 or 3 times to figure out if the green-eyed, crinkly-haired woman selling cereal or soda is black. If she's dark-skinned, chances are she's selling something that's a drag to use, like toilet bowl, cleanser, or laxative. What we are witnessing is the rise of the biracial as favored black woman. even though it's stretching the point to suggest any of us are preferred. At the millennium, the culture has taken their contempt and our erasure one step further. Two of the most visible and acceptable images of Black women in the eyes of the dominant culture are those offered by RuPaul and occasionally the Chicago Bulls' Dennis Rodman, Black Men in Drag. Black Americans twist the fruit of our enslavement into a prized possession. As much as Black people don't like to talk about or admit it, a color caste system remains a dominant aspect of our communities, particularly for women. Put a truly beautiful chocolate-covered woman side by side with an average-looking beige one, and I guarantee you that most Black people will declare the light-skinned one prettier. Look at Black couples and notice how often the woman's complexion is lighter than the man's, evidence that we continue, consciously or not, to find light-skinned women. The increased chance that they will produce lighter-skinned children more valuable. This is our version of marrying up. Listen, even to the language we use when talking about color. Light-skinned people are described as fair. Language as value judgment. People are often described as dark but beautiful, as if their complexion were something to overcome. Too often, we hold darker children to behavior standards that lighter children are not required to meet, as if their complexion confers upon them a state of grace that excuses or mitigates misbehavior, instant entitlement based upon color that extends, especially for women into adulthood. In describing newborns, what Black people always tell you is about the baby's color and the texture of their hair, even when they cannot recall the infant's name. We have a plethora of myths and folks' wisdom relating to hair and complexion. A bald head on a baby means the child will have good hair, and a thick head of hair means naps will follow. An infant's adult complexion can be judged by the color of the palms of his hands or soles of his feet. A clothespin on the nose will keep it from spreading. Negroid nose. Flip through an issue of Vogue, Elle, Mademoiselle, or any other women's magazine, a misnomer since they should more accurately be called men's magazines, since their focus is on how men want to configure women, and Black women are largely absent. When we are present, it is as images that conform to white notions of Black beauty. There is no doubt that some of those women are beautiful, but Naomi Campbell is not most of us, any more than Kate Moss is most white women. The difference is that above and beyond the destructive myths of beauty, white women have a whole white culture that confers on them. In whatever twisted ways the myriad rewards of whiteness, she is at least viewed as a woman, in the sweepstakes invisible. Most women, white and Black, are not comforted by the dominant myths of beauty. The difference for Black women is that we do not feel simply ugly, but totally outside the irrelevant invisible. The significant and continuous successive essence, the only fashion and beauty magazine targeted towards Black women, is due in large part to the visibility it gives to Black women in all our diversity of color, hair, and body. Almost 3 decades after its debut in 1970, Essence remains the only magazine that consistently recognizes and embraces the true range of Black beauty. In the pages of Essence, our beauty is not dependent on our degree of whiteness or the subtle or overt racist and sexist fantasies of male photographers and art directors of Black women as exotic, animalistic, overly sexualized objects of domination, degradation, and desire. In these pages, Black women's beauty is normal, not abhorrent. As a Black woman, I have been trying to figure out what is beautiful and functional and comfortable for me and my sisters for most of my life. Over the last 10 years, I've been having my hair cut shorter and shorter. In the late summer of 1996, when I am 44, I have my hair shaved to the scalp with an electric razor. When I leave, my head is covered with a faint memory of brown and silver peach fuzz. I am as close to bald as I can get without lathering up and using a straight razor. I do this because I am tired of everything about hair, having it, combing it, thinking about it, plain feeling it. So to test my theory that for me hair has finally become obsolete, I got rid of it. I want to see how people react to me and how I react to myself hairless. After the first few days, when I wake up startled by my own reflection in the mirror, I come to love it. I like the way it looks, the way it feels briskly when I run my head over it from any direction. That after 4 decades, I have achieved hair that requires no maintenance. The response of others is profound. Most Black men's eyes skip over me rapidly, distastefully, as if they do not care to see someone who looks like me. I catch pure disdain from the eyes of several. A few stare, look intrigued, and rap to me, although most of these are young enough to be my children. Black women in general, with the exception of the few who are also either bald or wearing short naturals or dreadlocks, who give me solidarity, smile, or compliment me, look at me as if I'm totally unattractive, insane, or vaguely threatening. It is as if in deciding to be bald, I am challenging our collective obsession with hair. Maybe I am. White people, women and men, look surprised and stare at me as I go by. Many people across race, particularly women, give me a sympathetic smile, assuming perhaps that I am a cancer patient undergoing chemotherapy. Whatever a specific individual's response, the most interesting thing about being bald is that I am no longer invisible. Like it or not, everyone sees me. It is a wonderful sensation. Maybe a giant step in Black women gain invisibility would be if we all shaved our heads. We would be both immediately visible and connected. Barring such drastic action, a possible first step would be in acknowledging the commonality of our experiences as Black girls and women in a hostile and alien culture. Sometimes that affirmation comes from simply making eye contact, or talking to girls about self-image, or teaching young women how to look at pop culture critically, or telling another woman that she looks nice. That is sisterhood. Several days after I cut my hair, I walked to the subway station. The woman rapidly climbing the steps ahead of me has dark brown skin, a slim frame. I cannot see how old she is. A teenage girl walks slightly behind her. One of the girl's hands casually touches the woman's dreadlocks as she talks. As I close the distance between us, I hear the girl say, "Really, Mom? You could go to the hairdresser and they twist them up right. Fix up your locks. They'll look nice. People will notice you. People will be looking from across the street." The woman turns slightly to look back at her daughter. She is smiling. "Forget it. This ain't no hairstyle," she says as I pull alongside her. She is probably in her early 30s. I reach out my hand and we slap five, briefly clasp hands, laugh. It is a moment of unspoken understanding, communion, knowing that hair and so much of what we thought mattered to the business of our being women doesn't matter at all, or much, or certainly not enough for her to go to a beauty salon and have her low-maintenance dreadlock style. It is obsolete. That there is too much work to be done, and that she, with her non-salon selected locks, and me with my damn near bald head, and all the other sisters struggling for loving self-definition, are bad as we want to be. At the bottom of the steps, her daughter peels off, heading downtown. We climb the last flight of stairs in tandem, going in the same direction. Chapter 1. And that was the opening chapter of Straight No Chaser by Jill Nelson. Now, as you can see, we did not ease into this book gently. We immediately opened it by confronting, challenging, and calling out some of those ideas around beauty, politics, insecurity, and comparison. Which is interesting considering I don't remember exactly when the phrase was created, but it reminds me of intersectionality, right? We talk about intersectionality that impacts the different system that impacts a person. And when I think about this book, I think about when I think about this and some of those topics, it reminds me of intersectionality. So again, we immediately talking about who's feminine, who's protected, who is to be believed, and who's allowed to have some level of complexity and nuance, hell, even fairness, right? Black women have always had to focus on like their complexion, their hair, and even their body size. But one of the things that Jill sought to do was to connect those things to the proximity to power and how that impacts the rest of your life. Another great thing that we saw in this first chapter is that these things happen or can happen before adulthood. Like, it's not like you become this adult and all of a sudden that's when you become aware of these things. It's that subtle messaging that starts really early in life that begins to impact you. So when we talk about the role of insecurity and how it can impact your life because of confidence, it doesn't just show up when you're an adult. It actually follows you into your relationships, your careers, your friendships. It starts early in your life. By the time you get to recognizing the behaviors, it's something that's already been developed. Another thing was, Jill calls out Angela Davis. Love Angela Davis. I love the comparison between the two, and especially because we're reading this book in 2026. Again, let me remind you, it was created in 1997. So think about that a little bit as you're reading this book. But 1997 to now, here we are in 2026. In 1997, when this book is published, she's talking about Angela Davis, whom we still love. But now we can look at it from the lens of Angela Davis and Jill Nelson, right? And what you begin to see is this system that the system that applies towards Black women is this very systemic system in which there's boundaries that you don't know exist until you cross them. And with Angela Davis, she represented kind of some of those quiet rules. One, her hair, her stance, her refusal to soften herself. So for example, she wore her hair the way she wanted to. She was not going to look feminine. She was not going to talk the way you wanted her to. She did not have to be what you considered to be a lady. She refused this performance of palatability, because people expect you to be palatable. And what that says is that you can be brilliant, you can be intelligent, or even have a great political stance. None of that exempts you from being measured first by your appearance. So her mention of Angela Davis was in admiration, but at the same time, it was kind of realism, right? It was a warning and an adherence. I think no amount of your intelligence, no amount of your contribution fully liberates Black women from being visibly and bodily scrutinized first. So I found that to be extremely interesting as we open up the topic. But there were some other things that I kind of picked out of this. And so it was almost as when I talk about that system and the way it impacts women when we talk about Angela Davis to Jill Nelson. So this system that says, first, turn analysis into temperament. Your thinking is going to get recorded as your personality. So once it's anger or sharpness or bitterness, then it no longer has to be answered. It just needs to be managed. Make the problem their tone, not the system. See, that's deflection. By focusing on how they speak, the system gets to avoid engaging what they're saying. Collapse the structural into personal grievance. We're not talking about this big system that's impacting everybody. It's just you and your personal problem, right? Redirect the attention inward, especially when you're talking about Black women, right? Misdirection. Instead of the system getting interrogated, then Black women, they're the point of the conflict. They're the reason why we're divided or was contradictory or self-undermining. We will allow you brilliance, but deny your authority. Your intelligence is tolerated. Insight, well, we admire that. But the moment that the work claims the right to define, reframe, or even found some type of legitimacy, oh no, absolutely not. That's when we withdraw. So again, this chapter, one thing is not the whole book. There's so much more as you get into it. This is just the opening chapter. This is not the only focus of this book. Each chapter really highlights some different things of the community. So I would encourage you to read it and check it out. Let me know again what your thoughts are. If you are enjoying Black Art is Lit, please subscribe wherever you listen. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, all of the major ones. So wherever you're looking and listening from, I greatly thank you for tuning in. So again, I'm your host, Nakira Cheney, and we'll talk with you next week on Black Art is Lit.